Good evening, everyone. Here we are again. Friday rolls around once a week on a weekly basis, as it were. It always seems to come around quick. As I said last week, Monday morning, you wake up with your Monday morning hangover, and Friday seems eons away. Then you just kind of knuckle down and get into some work, and before you know where you are, it's Wednesday, the hump of the week, and then Thursday comes along, or Friday Eve, as we call it in this house. And then suddenly here we are, and it's time for one of these. Cheers, everyone. In case anyone's interested, it's Heineken this evening. That is where I'm drawing my inspiration from, and I do need a beer this evening because, I will tell you about Parcel Force, or Parcel Farce, as it were. Yes, you can always rely upon courier firms, can't you, to ruin your day. Not a massive inconvenience, but it is some, when you wait in, basically, and they don't turn up. Anyway, more on that later. Let's have a look in the chat, see who we got in right now. So Dr. Gomez 1 was the first one in, and then we've got Balder and PFY Guitars and Mike Hurley. After that, I can see Johnny H and Johnny Random are in, so is Terry Day and sometimes Dim Never Thin. Then we've got Edwin Toonan and Mark Kerno and Grandpa Joe. Chip Young's there, so is Michael Palmer. Steve Entwistle, Michael Dodds asking, is it my birthday soon? Yes, indeed it is. And then we've got David James and Steve Muskie and Vincent Brennan. There's David Evans and Michael Purcell and Jeff C. Ian Clark's in, and so is Deco Dude. Stratboy 999 is in. Rent to Kill is there. And we got Chip Young and James Hunt. And Malcolm Spillett is there. So is Paul Trainer, the resident bass player. And who else we got? We got scrolling down. We got Anton and Dave Fiendish. And then who else we got? Let's scroll down a bit more. Theme Tunes and Jason Carter. The Essex Cat is there. So is Paul Jameson and Brian Brazil. Brad Matthews is in. Calby and the Rocco Cat. And who else we got? We've got David Evans. I've said that already, haven't I? Do apologise. Jason Carter, have I said you already, mate? And then scrolling down further, I can see we've got Chris Ottewell. And I'm just seeing that, is it Deco Dude there? Yes. I think you've had a little bit of bad news there, mate. I'm just scrolling through the chat to see what it is. Oh, Deco Dude, mate, you have my severe condolences. And, what can one say? Nothing really. I'm not going to come out with a load of platitudes, but, just, have a beer with us, mate. You're amongst friends here. And then we've got Peter Collins and C64 and Frank Bolam is there. So is Thomas Mulvaney and John Mack, and we got Cylon Hybrid and 60s Man and Ron Wells and Colin Falcon is there. Farjon is in, so is David Collins, Peter Nicholson, and we've got Nathan in. How are you, mate? Billy Paul is there, Peter S. Robert Galbraith is in, so is Steve Lamb and John Channing and Nancy Davis. There's Morris Kilday in, and William Forrest and Bass at Night, and yes, First Flake Calby. We've got who else we got? We got the Time Prophet Wrexham Matic and X Large, Ben Allmark. Bill Mumbo is there, so is Pablo Hank and Michael Beliveau, and Watches and Guitars, no less. Then we've got Jay Aoyong and Das Schaff. Steve Lamb, if I've said you already, I couldn't remember, but thank you. And I noticed I've got a super chat there from someone. Thank you so much. I haven't noticed where that's come from. Edwin Toonan, when you are drinking Dutch Pride Heineken, it's on me. Enjoy it. Thank you. Thank you so much, Edwin. Then I can see we've got Triple Distilled, and Nigel Arthur, and who else we got? Is it Arvon Gaunt is in, and that takes me to the end of the register. Thank you, Edwin. You are a gentleman and a scholar. Usually around about this time of the evening, I tell you what's coming up on the channel this week. And I've got a bit of news concerning yesterday's guitar as well, that Donna guitar. A little bit of an update on that, but first of all, let's tell you what's coming up this week. There is on Sunday the much awaited. I've had a few messages about this. When are you going to do the video with that 59 Les Paul, that Epiphone? Well, that's on Sunday. I've done 3 videos with that guitar, and the first of those is on Sunday. The reason why it's been such a long time is because that's how far in advance I do the videos. I'm currently working on videos for the week commencing March the 13th. Okay, that's how far in advance I am. So when I got the that Epiphone, it was I started making the videos for it straight away, and it's but all the other slots were full because I'd already uploaded stuff. So that's the Epiphone Les Paul is this Sunday. Then Monday, as usual, is a solo analysis. I've decided to keep that little feature going for a while, mainly because I can't think of what else to put in its place. And I enjoy doing the solos, and I enjoy tabbing them out, and they are a good resource for me to use in the lessons. So the fact that the YouTube videos aren't really among my best performing videos, maybe in terms of views they're not, but they do tend to get people emailing me for lessons. So in that sense, yeah, they're going to keep on going. So Monday's video is a band I've had a lot of requests about. Classic bit of Southern rock. We're looking at the Marshall Tucker Band on Monday, one of their big songs, and I won't tease you with it. It's Can't You See? So we're looking at the solo from that. Then on Tuesday, a top 5 video, as is usually the case. It's basically tips for anyone joining their first band. This sprang out of one of my students who is a young chap in his 20s, and he's just kind of getting ready to go and kind of get together with a few mates and start putting a band together, just like a rock covers band, doing the pubs and clubs. And he asked me if I had any advice. So basically the advice that I gave to him is going to form the basis of Tuesday's video. 5 tips for anyone joining their first band. Then on Wednesday, another video inspired by one of my students, a chap you often see in the chat on these little soirees that we have every Friday. A chap called Lee Myrano. He came to me, kind of saying, "Can we have a look at the BB box? You know, that little pentatonic box shape that was quite a big sort of favourite of Mr. B.B. King." So I've sort of bundled that in with the Albert King box as well, or sometimes called the House of Blues. So that's Wednesday's viewers' question kind of lesson-y type video. Then on Thursday, we are doing a little bit of a pickup mod on a Harley Benton guitar. Not one of mine. A chap basically sent me his Harley Benton guitar and asked me to put some Tone Rider pickups in it. And he said, make a video about it. Why don't you? So we're going to be checking out the difference between Roswell pickups that are stock in Harley Benton guitars. And we're going to see exactly how much difference it makes to swap those out with Tone Riders. And the results are quite surprising, I think. So there you go. That is the videos that are coming up this week. Now then, excuse me, I'm just going to have a little bit of a wet of me whistle. And, I need to top me vape up. So while I'm doing that, let's just have a little bit of a look in the chat. Balder is saying, does anyone actually call Newcastle Brown dog? It was quite the thing. I seem to remember that being an 80s thing. You go into a pub certainly in this part of the world in the 80s and ask for a bottle of dog. and that was a bottle of Newcastle Brown Ale. I don't know where it came from or anything, but it was certainly a thing. It was certainly in common parlance. Vincent Brennan, that's a new one to me, mate. Who is going to buy Waters' re-recorded Dark Side of the Moon? It's the first I've heard of that, to be honest with you. I didn't know he was doing it. I suppose a lot of people will do the same as me and either stream it or possibly think, well, yeah, if it's not going to be too expensive, I'll buy it, because the curiosity factor is just going to get you, isn't it? It's just going to kind of make you, well, what if it's? I mean, the one album like that, I think that was done in 2014 was when Camel did a reboot of The Snow Goose, and that was, I thought, a massive disappointment. It's because you've got that. I have the Snow Goose, the original. Was it from 74, 75? I have the original of that album in my head, and it's when it's not when things don't kind of measure up to that benchmark, but when they differ, it just feels a bit weird. So but again, if Roger Waters is doing a reboot of the Dark Side of the Moon, then I'm going to listen to it just out of curiosity. What is it with elderly 70s icons doing reboots of their most famous work? I mean, we've heard this week that John Cleese is going to do a reboot of Fawlty Towers. Now, I'm definitely up for that one. Oh, yes, indeed. That is right up my alley. So, anyway, I was going to tell you about this guitar from yesterday, the Donna Les Paul copy. I mentioned in that video that I had plans for. Was it in that video? I've done 2 videos with it. The first one was yesterday. The next one's coming up in a week or so. But in the videos that I've done with that guitar, I've said that, I'm going to kind of do some modding on this, and I'm going to kind of, basically tinker with it and sort of pick up the threads from what I was planning to do with that 70s Les Paul copy, that Yamato. But upon reflection, I think I would rather do that project with a 70s guitar. So I've got my eyes peeled for something, I don't want to spend a fortune, but I want something that's a cheap kind of beginner's guitar from the 70s that I'm kind of scouting around for. So I'm not going to do that with the Donna guitar. I've been kind of thinking about it since I made the videos, and looking at the diary, to be honest with you, the amount of work I've got booked in at the moment, I just don't have time, certainly this side of Easter, to do anything of a modding kind of or major modding sort of project. So I'm going to shelve it until A, I can find the right guitar, and B, I've got more time on my hands. So what I've decided to do is I've decided to donate that guitar, not to Zoe's place, but to what I think is another worthy cause. There is another YouTuber who may be among us this evening. I'll leave it up to him to decide whether he wants to reveal who he is, but you'll know when you see the video. I've decided to send it on to another YouTuber who is, he's got a bit of a fledgling channel. He's just recently got himself monetized, and the quality of his videos is improving all the time. And I thought, when I first started taking YouTube seriously, there were a few generous souls who just sent me guitars and said, there you go, have this guitar, do with it what you want. And so it's just time for me now to sort of pay that forward a little bit. James Hunt, has he got orange hair? He might have, mate. Depends what day of the week it is. So I basically I thought, it's I have no shortage of guitars in this room, no shortage of stuff I can make content with. So it's time to just kind of pass it on and give someone a helping hand. So plus, this is a small house, and it's kind of I am having to think about thinning the herd a little bit. Let's have a look, see what else. Okay, I'll let the cat out of the bag. It's already there in the chat. Pablo Hank. It is Johnny from the Budget Guitar Show. He is soon to be getting the Donna Les Paul. Which brings me to the next point I want to talk about. I booked a Parcel Force delivery for today. I waited in all day. You know, Parcel Force were going to come and collect the guitar and get it on its way to its new owner. And, you know, Parcel Force was supposed to come today. I paid them to come today. And they didn't come today after I'd waited in all of today for them to turn up. So, Parcel Force, I'm talking to you right now, okay? Whether or not anyone from Parcel Force will ever see this live stream or the replay of it or whatever, I don't care. I need to get this off my chest. Parcel Force, you are a bunch of useless, born-idle, dishonest, incompetent, over-promising, under-delivering, feckless, shifty wazzocks. There, I've said it. And I hope that gets reported to somebody in a position that is able to do something about it before you get my snotty email first thing on Monday morning. There, rant over. Let's have a look, see what else we got in the chat. Oh, we got in here. I can see there's... Bald is saying, I'll mention it again, the Faisley Outlaw Coyote Plus SS is mental value for money. It is, mate. I'm not ashamed to say that I play it more than my Fender Telecaster. It is an absolute belter of a guitar. Let's have a look. What else we got to talk about? Dave Pegg is saying, new Guitar Week, saying Fender on the headstock with Chinese ripoff. Guy before me put new pickups and tuners on, but can't fault it. Makes one wonder why we spend so much on Gibsons and the like. Yeah, this is... I actually made this point. I don't know if any of you saw Colin's video from earlier today, Guitaristas. I had it on this machine while I was editing a video on that one. You know, he was talking about his Les Paul custom shop 54 reissue, which he's decided to sell. And, you know, he was saying, you know, do you get a much better guitar for, you know, spending that much more money? And the truth is you don't. But as I pointed out in the comment, and I've said on this channel before, I'm a huge fan of cheap guitars. That little Faisley Telecaster copy. Let me go and grab it. This is my Telecaster of choice. Whenever I want, you know, a single coil, proper single coil Telecaster type guitar, this is what I pick up. It's an immensely good guitar. All right, I've modded it. I've put better tuners on, and it's got tone rider pickups and a new wiring on it. But you know, it's in terms of, you know, the actual bones of the guitar, it's a fantastic guitar. And as I said, I play it more than the Nashville Telecaster you can see on the wall there. But when you buy, so I am a fan of cheap guitars. I've just bought a new Harley Benton, which there will be a video coming soon, and I've got a Court turning up, a relatively inexpensive Court turning up that's going to be on the channel. So I am a fan of cheap guitars, but I also have, you know, a nice kind of entry level, fair enough, but nice USA made PRS, and you know the Gibson Les Paul, the Tribute. The thing that you get when you buy, let's say, a more high end guitar or higher end guitar, not what you'd call a budget guitar. The thing you're doing is you're giving yourself a little pat on the back. It's a certificate of achievement, if you like, for having had a good year. You know, I mean, as I say, cheap guitars sound great these days. I think it will be a real challenge, and there's probably the seed of an idea for a video in this. You know, can you still buy an awful guitar? You know, we see so many YouTube videos kind of trying to buy good guitars. I wonder if it's still possible to buy a bad one. That might be a idea worth pursuing. you know, I think you really struggle to buy a bad guitar these days at any price point, unless you're kind of down below the sort of 70 or 80 quid level. And even then, usually they're worth modding up to something a bit better. But, you know, a guitar is often more than a musical instrument. As I say, it can be some kind of something, a kind of significant moment in your life that you're kind of marking by making a big ticket purchase, and that guitar will, or whatever it is, you know, maybe you're into golf, maybe it's a new set of golf bats. It can be, you know, just a way of encapsulating that memory of that special moment in your life, really. You know, that's my thought on it anyway. Jason Carter. John, do you see guitars as tools of the trade, or do you get attached to them occasionally? Well, yeah, I do. You know, I used to, and I've spoken on this channel in the past about, you know, it's just a tool that does a job. But the thing is, you know, you have to want to pick it up. You have to I think you have to form some kind of bond with it. You know, there's got to be an emotion. I mean, the Ert guitar that was, you know, mentioned in yesterday's video, in terms of, I was always quite skeptical about the pickups on that guitar, which is why I swapped them out for some Vansons. It had its faults. I was always a little bit skeptical of the headless nature of it. But dear me, that neck on that guitar was so addictive to play. It was absolutely astonishingly good to play. But then again, so is the neck on this. You know, you were waiting for the gratuitous Blondie shot. Here it is. The neck on this guitar is absolutely sublime. And, you know, I was either reaching for this, or when I wanted a twin humbucker guitar, I was reaching for this or the Les Paul, or when I wanted something, you know, with a little bit of a kind of wiggly stick, it was this one. I just found I wasn't really reaching for the Ert. I think you can only, you can't force that. You know, you've just got to have the guitar and see if you're drawn to it over a period of weeks or months, and if you're not, then, you know, you start questioning, like Colin in the Guitarist's video today. If it ain't getting used, then well, why have it there gathering dust? You know. What's that, Boulder? The Faisley Midas was so bad I sent it straight back after 5 minutes. Shame as I was going to send it on to John to compare with a Harley Benton GT90. Okay, fair enough, mate. What is the Midas? Which one is that? I should know this because, you know. Oh, so we've got Angel Martinez in. How are you, mate? Golf paddles, says Theme Tunes. Yes. Golf bat, yeah. What was that? The amount of time you spent in the water. Normski is saying, I'd join you in a bee, but I'm sitting in the borough with my truck waiting to go home, mate, so I'll have to wait till I get home to Durham. Well, you know, have one when you get home. Watch it again on replay and pretend that you know you're having one live with us. Let's have another look in the chat. Cal, Blondie is, you know, she's taking on a really attractive. Oh God, look at the top on that. It really does frustrate me that for some reason it never comes across that well in the videos. But you know, beautiful guitar, and I still have to pinch myself, you know. You know, when I think I've got a signature model guitar, it's ridiculous. Curry Bum Jenkins, floor indeed. Edwin Toonan is saying, I have my Ert Telly style guitar, my New XMG30 for sale. Only friend prices on this channel. Yeah, we'll talk, mate. We'll talk. That would be, yeah, definitely. We'll have a conversation, mate. Faisley Midas is a gold top Les Paul set. Of course, it is Midas. Yes, would be, wouldn't it? Is it a true blonde, John? Yes, indeed. The carpets and curtains match here. Mind you, anyway, enough said about matters of a hair-related nature. Angel Martinez, can anyone buy the Blondie guitar? In theory, yes, mate. But the problem is, Dan, who makes these guitars, he's a one-man guitar builder. I know he's got a lot of work on at the moment, so there will be a waiting list. And the other thing is, Dan is as you've seen, is an absolute artist when it comes to building guitars. But I think he'll forgive me if I mention that IT-related matters are not his strong suit. And for whatever reason, his website, the link to his website, scottguitars.co.uk, isn't working at the moment. I've had a few people shouting at me in the comments in recent videos about that. It's like, why doesn't the link to your signature guitar work? Well, I don't know, because I don't make the guitar. I just endorse it. The guy who makes the guitars is responsible for the website, and I've been messaging him and not got any replies. So in theory, yeah, the guitars are there, and the way it works is that I paid full price for my guitar, minus I do get a little bit of a commission off each one sold. And what I did, I hope I'm not being indiscreet here, but what I did was I didn't have the money to buy my signature guitar outright. So a very, very good friend of mine loaned me the money, because he was saying, "What? Somebody wants to make you a signature model guitar and you're going to turn it down because you haven't got the money? Here's the bloody money." And the agreement was that when the commissions came in from the sale of subsequent guitars, then that commission I'd used to pay back my mate who loaned me the money for Blondie here. So I'm all in favour of many people buying their own Blondie. It doesn't have to be blonde, by the way. You can specify any finish you want. Another guy who bought one had it in a nice sort of tobacco burst. But at the moment, I'm not getting any joy contacting Dan. So I shall keep you posted. Jason Carter, you're right. He's a fantastic bloke, my mate. I'll spare his blushes by not mentioning his name because he occasionally appears in the chat here. But we've been mates since we were at college together in the 80s, when we were both fresh-faced Merchant Navy radio officer cadets in 1984, I think it was. He was best man at my wedding. I was best man at his. We are sort of, he's the brother I never had, really. It's and he's a fantastic mate, and as he spent a lot of time professionally in Australia, and the Aussies have a saying which is, what a decent bloke. He'd give you his arse and shit through his ribs, which is exactly what this pal of mine is like. Deco Dude is saying, John, you could do a thing finding good homes of love guitars like Swap Shop. Oh, no, there's a man who grew up in the 70s. Swap Shop, indeed. Yes. The logistics of it might be a bit tricky to work out, but as long as I don't have to get involved in trudging to the post office with big, heavy parcels, to if you chaps can work out the logistics of shipping guitars to each other, then it could be something we could look into that. Yes. By the way, something else I need to mention is that there has been, thanks to a certain Mr. Balder in the chat, talk of another meetup, which I'm definitely up for it. A bunch of us getting together on a Friday evening to have this kind of conflab in person, and there will be beer consumed and there will be curry consumed. It would be a fantastic thing. We did it back in 2021. The thing is, back in 2021, about 30 people said they were going to turn up, and about 12 actually did, 12 or 13. At the moment, including me, there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 who've said a definite yes. So, I don't want it to be the kind of gathering that wouldn't look crowded in a phone box. So, if you're up for it, give me a shout. jrguitartuition@gmail.com. We can, once we've got, let's say once we can get it into about sort of high double figures, I don't mean like 90 odd, I mean kind of into the teens, let's say, we could probably make it work. But so if you're interested, we'll talk about dates and everything. If you're interested in principle, get in touch via that email address, jrguitartuition@gmail.com, and let's see if if we can make it happen. So we've got Peter Shields in. How are you, mate? Chip Young is saying, anyone after Harley Benton HB 35 Plus Lemon or an Epi LP Pro Honeyburst, get in touch with John. Indeed, I'll get in touch with me and Chip. Make sure I've got your email, mate, and I'll forward any. I'll act as a facilitator there. Right, so Robert Galbraith, I'll put you on the list, mate. And maybe more people have said in the chat on. I'll put Robert Galbraith +1. +1. There we go. As I often say, I spend a lot of time just kind of blethering and drinking and talking nonsense and what have you. And I often miss things that go on in the chat. I'm not Rick Beato. I don't have an intern, or an assistant who's keeping an eye on the chat. It's just me. Edwin Tooner saying they call you Uncle John already. You're on the 55-inch TV each Friday during dinner. I hope you're not watching me in high definition, mate. This is not a face that you want to watch in high definition, least of all 4K. Anton is saying, any chance of the Rock Masterclass mentioned last year? Count me in if so, please. Yeah, the Rock Masterclass, I had to park that because I just got too busy with actual lessons. People kind of coming to me on the Zoom and coming here in person, and that plus doing 5 videos and a live stream every week. It just I was I just didn't have there weren't enough hours in the day. I have still got the lesson plan for it, and I've got a lot of the solos done, and I've got a lot of the kind of the lesson notes written out and everything. But I am going to have to dive back into that at some point. It will happen. Whether it will happen as a Zoom kind of live thing, or whether it will be more of a kind of a recorded course, I'm not entirely sure. But we shall see. But I'm hoping to make that happen this year. The nice problem to have is that I'm just so busy with work. I do. Well, here's my average working day. Right? I get up at 5:30. Sparrows fart on a morning, and cup of coffee, listen to an album all the way through, take the dog for a walk, and basically then come back, shit, shower, shave, breakfast, what have you, and by 8 a.m. I'm here at my desk. Okay. Now, usually I start teaching at 10 a.m. So I've got a couple of hours then where I'm feverishly kind of tabbing out solos or sitting here going, hello, chaps. Welcome once again to John Robson Guitar Tuition. As always, I do hope you're well. You know, all of that kind of making videos, basically. And then 10 o'clock, I'll start doing Zoom lessons. And that usually takes me through to about 2 o'clock. Take the dog out for a walk again, bite to eat. And then I'm back here maybe about 3:30. Again, Zoom lessons and maybe an hour off here and there between sort of 3 and 8 o'clock. Usually I'll get an hour and I'll do a little bit more YouTube sort of stuff. And then 8 p.m., that is usually, sometimes 9 p.m., that is when I finish. Friday, I do exactly the same thing, only I'm finished at 5 and I do this. Saturday, I finish early again, finish at 6 on a Saturday, and I finish at 5 again on a Friday, on a Sunday rather. So that's my working week. You add up those hours, it's well in excess of 70 hours a week. So it's finding the time to do to do an extra project on the side. And as I say, that's why I've had to sort of shelve doing any kind of modding type videos, because it's not just kind of clearing the workbench and getting, stuff, doing the work on the videos. It's setting cameras up and trying to get it kind of so that and learning me craft there, because you'll notice on the channel I've never really done a lot of videos where I'm actually working on guitars, because I'm not really set up for that. Since I got the workbench last summer, I thought, well, I can start doing videos with that now. But then it's a case of just awkward little things like the lead from the camera needs to reach over to a point that's further away from all that sort of stuff. So, yes, the rock masterclass will go ahead. I'm just not entirely sure when. No plans for retirement then yet, John? Well, you only retire from work, don't you? And I don't really consider this work. Going down a mine and digging coal out, or, felling trees with a big chainsaw and, I'm a lumberjack and I'm okay, all that sort of stuff. That's work. This is just I'm just sat here kind of blethering on about guitars. It's not like I'm breaking a sweat, but it does take up, and I'm making I think a decent living out of doing it. But it's, it does take, it's a full-time thing. And when the thing is as well, it's like when you essentially turn your hobby into your livelihood, where do you blur the line? Where do you draw the line between, okay, I'm playing, I'm doing my hobby now, or I'm doing work? I'll be honest with you, that over Christmas, the temptation to come up here and just start playing the guitar was overwhelming. And I did a little bit, but I had to stop myself from thinking, oh, I'll just tab that solo out, or I'll just kind of start doing a script for that video or something. So, it's not really retirement if you're not really working, is it? Let's have a look, see what else I've missed in the chat. Robert Galbraith, is there any hotels where we could meet up? Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. To my shame, I'm 56 years old in a couple of weeks. And in all those 56 years, I have never successfully passed a driving test. I just have something of a mental block on that. And I've always, you get to the age of 56 and you start thinking, well, okay, yeah, this is my life now. I don't drive. And it means I can't really travel in any sort of distance very easily. So it would have to be somewhere up near me. And Redcar is absolutely awash with hotels. There's loads and loads of little bed and breakfasts, and and the thing that you don't realize about Redcar is that it's a very a reasonably popular tourist destination, not because of what's happening in Redcar, but because you're right on the doorstep of a lot of absolutely gorgeous countryside here. You know, all the James Herriot sort of, it shouldn't happen to a veteran, you know, what was that called? All Creatures Great and Small. All of that country is just on our doorstep up here. So you do tend to get, the tourist industry is a big thing in this part of the world. So, you know, there's plenty of hotels up here where, you know, you can find a place to crash after a night on the beer and the curry, basically. James Hunt is saying, I've been driving for years, but I really struggle with learning the guitar. Yeah, well, you know, I'll swap you. Yeah, this is the thing. Like I remember on driving lessons, you know, the instructor would be saying, "Look at the curb." I'm thinking, I can't bloody see the curb. There's a big lump of metal between me and it called an engine. You know, so it's just, you know, well, you line the curb up with the corners of the windscreen, or you line the corners up with the corner of the bonnet, or you line the curb up with the moons of Saturn, or whatever, and that's how you know it. I just didn't have the spatial awareness for it. So there you go. Dave Lewis is here, been asleep. Let's have a look, see what else we've got. PFY guitars are saying, my village is always full of tourists, can't get to the shop for them. Yeah, I used to have a bit of that. I used to live in a really gorgeous part of the country, in that many of you from these shores will know, the English Lake District. I used to live in a little town called Ambleside, and the house where I lived, it was just like a kind of a lodging house when I was a student there. You know, it had it was right on the main road, and you'd be kind of sat in your living room, and you know, you get sort of tourists walking along the street, looking in the front window, you know, as though you're all part of the same sideshow. I understand you've had a few dog problems on Redcar beaches. Dougal, okay. Yeah, because we don't go to the beach for precisely that reason. There's been a couple of dog attacks here. The beaches, people think that, oh, you live at the seaside, you must be on the beach all the time. Not really, because, you know, Chris Rea once wrote a song about Redcar called Windy Town, and dear me, it is. You know, the town motto should be, it'd be a lovely day if it wasn't for the wind. We get howling gales coming in from the North Sea. And, you know, if you're on the beach in that wind, it's just like the sand is absolutely up your nostrils and down your, well, down where, you know, the sun don't shine. You're kind of washing sand off in the shower, you know, all the next day. Well, you know what I'm saying. So the beach, and then the tide comes right the way in, and so you got to kind of time it when it's not windy, when there's no other dodgy dogs around, and the tide's out, and you know, so we don't tend to use the beach that much. There's plenty of other places for dog walking though. So yes, but thank you, Dougal is absolutely fine. Edwin Toonan is saying, Guthrie Govan can't drive a car as well. Yeah, but he's allowed to because he's, you know, probably maybe they don't have cars on his planet, because that's the thing about Guthrie. He's certainly not of this earth, is he? He was beamed in from another galaxy. He's just a really, really special player, Guthrie. You know, I mean, I must admit, I've tried in vain to get into the aristocrat stuff, but it's just a little bit too out there for me. But I can listen to it and appreciate the talent, but it just doesn't give me that kind of tingle, you know. But that solo album, that one solo album that he did, Erotic Cakes, you know, I never ever tire of listening to that. You know, things like Rhode Island Shred and Sevens, and of course Wonderful Slippery Thing, you know, just immensely fantastic guitar playing in a way that actually does give me the tingle, you know. Let's have a look, see what else we got in the chat. How about an electric scooter? Yeah. I think, can you picture that? Really? Can you picture this frame? I mean, one thing that many people often say because, you know, I have a few students who come here for lessons who first encountered me on YouTube. And the first thing they always say when they meet me, you know, in person is, bloody hell, you're a big lad, aren't you? For the record, I am 5 feet 19 inches tall. So that's right, 6'7". You know, it's there's a lot of me to kind of, you know, me old fella, me dad always used to say, your young buggy, you'll stand a week after you're shot. And, you know, it's so can you picture this frame on an electric scooter? I think not. Yes, Nigel. Yes, David Evans, I am indeed 6'7". Time Prophet, I could see you driving a milk float full of beer. I'd rather be in the back, mate. Graham Campbell, I spoke to an ex-Vulcan pilot who had issues with peripheral vision. He managed to pass his targeting course after a few attempts by working out where the target was in relation to a nearby farmhouse. Okay, fair enough. Yeah, Chris Otwell, my primary school trips were to Redcar. And yeah, well, where do we used to? I seem to remember we used to have endless school trips to Marsden Rock, that big lump of basalt or whatever it is, standing outside the North Sea. I think we went there about 3 times, you know, and always on the worst windswept, sideways rainy kind of day. Michael Belleville, do your silly walk. Yes. Jay Aoyong saying, holy cow, I'm 5'6". I bet you can find trousers to fit you easier than I can. What height is your wife? Shorter than me, mate. I don't know how tall Jackie is, but a few years ago we had a new bathroom suite installed, and when the builder was here doing it, he said, right, where do you want this bathroom cabinet? You know, the mirrors on the bathroom cabinet. I said, oh, okay, so shaving on the morning. There. So the bathroom cabinet with the mirrors on the front is, you know, at my kind of height for shaving. She can't look in it. It's you know, she has to kind of look upwards at it. So I got a bit of flack for that. Farjohn's off for his tea. Have you ever played a ukulele with your little stick of Blackpool Rock? I have not indeed. I've never played a ukulele, and I don't think I ever will. Let's see what. Let's see what else we got in the chat. A lot of people commenting on me height. You know. Anton saying cheeky bastards charge him extra. Oh, you know, you see, I've always been quite tall for me height throughout me age, you know, which was a great thing because when I was 14, I was able to get. There were certain pubs. You couldn't manage it in all of them. When I was 14, I could get served in pubs, and when I was 15, I was out gigging, playing in pubs. Nancy Davis is saying, got a Black Star Fly after taking out a subscription to Guitarist magazine. Great little practice amp. Any thoughts? Yeah, I had one of those back in the early days of the channel. You know, when, you know, it's when you're not making any money from YouTube or not making any significant money from YouTube, and you need to keep, you learn pretty quickly that it's gear related videos that get the views. So you're thinking, How can I build the channel? Well, I need to do gear reviews, but I can't afford to buy expensive gear. So the Black Star Fly was one of the things that I reviewed early on in the channel. And I remember being like properly impressed with it. You know, it was a great sounding little amp. Whether that's colored by, you look at it and you think that can't possibly sound any good, and then you plug into it and it sounds better than you expect. But I do remember taking the headphone out and recording from that and thinking, yeah, this is actually to record with. This isn't a bad sound. Kubla Karl is saying, "Hey up, Robbo, enjoying the channel." Well, thank you very much, mate. Thank you, and welcome to our little Friday evening cocktail hour, which is we're into the last 10 minutes now. I don't know where the time goes. I always sit here. I get up here. Usually set the stream up about 3 o'clock. No preparation. Nothing, no idea usually what I'm going to talk about, and you know, kind of sit down and come with me beer and everything about 10 to 5, and I'm always thinking, what the heck am I going to talk about for an hour? And you know, then it gets to like 50 minutes in where we are at the moment, and it's the time has just flown, and somehow I've managed to wing it for an hour, and it seems to be a formula that works. Let's have a look. Michael Beliveau is saying, "What's your best rock concert?" Now, I'm going to be really, really predictable here and say it was Gary Moore. And a lot of people kind of, you know, sort of have a bit of a chuckle at the way I say Gary Moore. But like I say Gary Moore, I say like Moore as it's spelt, you know, Moore, Moore. You know, it's what am I supposed to say? Gary Moore or something? No, it's Gary Moore. It was Gary Moore at the Newcastle City Hall in 1990. I saw him on the Still Got the Blues tour, and you could tell that, you know, he was playing the music that he loved. You know, and all right, it was Still Got the Blues, so it was technically a blues gig rather than a rock concert. But you could tell he was absolutely just having the time of his little life, and it was just a fantastic. You know, the band actually ran out. They did so many encores that the band ran out of material. You know, and then they just jammed. I think he came out and did, in my memory, I think it was The Loner as the final encore, and it was just a really fantastic night. Just the atmosphere, his playing, the sound, and you just fantastic gig. That one is, you know, there are many artists that are sadly no longer with us that I'm thinking, well, I wish I'd seen them live, and I'm glad that I managed to see Gary live. I would have loved to have seen Thin Lizzy live. I never did, but I'm kind of quite chuffed that I got to saw Gary. Another great gig, actually, also at Newcastle City Hall, saw the Jeff Healey band when they were on the Hell to Pay tour, and that was a fantastic gig as well. You know, but Gary takes the number one slot, always will. Jason Carter, yes, I saw Bryan Adams at it was called the Telly West Arena. Then I don't know what it's called now, but the big indoor arena in Newcastle. I think that was in 2001 or 2002. Me and the wife went, and that was a great gig as well. The only complaint I have about that gig is that he was doing it as a three-piece. It was just Bryan on bass, Keith Scott on drums, and I can't remember the name of the drummer, but they were doing it as a kind of power trio, three-piece. I wished he'd had like the full band. That I don't know whether it was financial constraints or whatever, but you know, I would have loved to have seen him with his full band, with the bass player, so Brian could play the rhythm guitar parts and the keyboard player. I just think some of the songs, a bit like "Run to You," for example, kind of suffered for not having the full band arrangement. Jason Carter was at the same concert. Nice one, mate. Let's have a look. Time prophesying. I thought a moor was a cow. John Mack saw Gary 3 times. And Peter Shields is saying, it's the spontaneity that makes this Friday chat work so well, John. You're the kind of bloke I'd love to share a pint with in a proper pub. Well, we can make that happen, as I was saying earlier, Malcolm Spiller, I also saw Blind Faith in Hyde Park. I had another, I used to know a guy who was a bit of a legend on the music scene up here. Sadly, I don't think he's with us anymore. Bit of a kind of, he was a bit of a, I'll spare his blushes, or, he was a bit of a villain, but and a bit of a gig promoter. He was at that Hyde Park gig for Blind Faith as well, and he told many a story about the music business, and he also told many a story about being a resident at Her Majesty's Pleasure, because he was, as I said, he was a bit of a villain, and it was great to hear first-hand accounts of people who were around at that sort of, I mean, I was that sort of late 60s, early 70s period. I was around, but the music I was listening to then was the wheels on the bus go round and round. So that's the last time you'll hear me sing on this channel, by the way. Or any other, so it's nice to kind of hear stories from people like that who were kind of there to see it all firsthand. Gavin Armstrong saying, met Gary on the 89 after the war tour. It didn't go well. Oh, that's very cryptic, mate. Yeah. See, that's the kind of thing you hear about Gary. Everybody who ever met him said he was either the perfect gentleman, or they have some kind of horror story to tell about, about how he was less than the perfect gentleman. That's a point, actually. If anybody is, interested in sharing stories like that, and would like to, you have any stories about meeting a famous rock icon, then we should do a Zoom call at some point. And if it's okay with you, I could put a bunch of them out in a video. Did you ever gig in Ambleside or Kendal? Yes, I gigged at the Queen's Hotel in Ambleside. They used to have a cellar bar there. Maybe they still do, but in the 80s there was a cellar bar there called the Ambleside Inn, and I played there a couple of times. Never gigged in Kendal, but I did gig a couple of times in Windermere at a venue called the Jazz Cabin there, which was... I didn't play jazz. I played in a kind of really bad blues band there once or twice. But so I did a couple of gigs over there. James Hunt has met all of Queen. Dear me. Well, Malcolm Spillett is saying, rock icon, does John Martin count? I'd say so, mate. Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah, newsflash, Van Morrison can get the hump. Yeah, I think the world knows that, mate. He's known for being the crotchety old git of the music business, isn't he? But I think you kind of price that in with Van Morrison. It's sort of part of his charm. Graham Campbell said, I met Jeff Beck briefly. He was lovely and I was a gibbering idiot. Starstruck. The thing is, though, if you are, that iconic. Oh, thank you, Jay How Young. You're a gentleman and a scholar. Thank you so much, mate. I will put that to good use. If you are kind of that iconic, and you must kind of, after a few years of being that sort of of that status, you probably get to a point where you expect members of the public to kind of be that sort of tongue-tied and kind of what's the word, dumbstruck and starstruck when they meet you, and you can't, as I say, you probably kind of price that in. Anyway, chaps, Dougal is barking his head off downstairs, so I need to go and see what the score is down there. And we've been on an hour, so that seems an opportune moment to draw matters to a conclusion for this yet another Friday evening. As I say, I never have any idea what I'm going to talk about for now, but you keep me going in the chat with your kind of suggestions, and the conversation continues. So thank you once again, every one of you, 205 at the moment, for turning up to watch your fat, bald lad talk absolute cobblers for an hour, and I'll keep on doing it till you're sick of me. But for now, time, gentlemen, please.